Hello and welcome to the Warhammer Podcast, episode 92. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, Eric.
How's it going?
And we have a fun episode today because we're going to relax a bit.
Yeah, it's holiday season, so we've got some bundles to take a look at.
Yeah, so without any further ado, let's jump into this before they're all out of stock.
Sounds good.
Alright, so after an off-screen tangent of complaining about the Warhammer website for a half hour...
Yeah, I thought it was just a queue that was a problem because it's pre-order time, but...
Eric was unaware they updated their website to look like a trash site you could buy for $5 in 2016.
Yeah, I was unaware. But, whatever. That's not what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about plastic and bundles and not a website.
So, let's frame what we're going to discuss. I don't want this to be stats vomit. Everybody has done those videos and can do them faster than us. This will be a week after you've all known the prices. Pre-order went up over the weekend, so you guys could have already bought these.
Spoiler alert, every single one has savings if you tried to buy all of them individually.
They always do.
GG.
Now, what I want to talk about is on a more personal level, our opinions on each box, which ones seem worth it, which ones don't, why. And also, I had the patrons help me out and find previous boxes for each army, except for obviously Votann and World Eaters, to check over time if we have experienced shrinkflation, which for those who don't know, it's where you charge for the same amount of money and you just keep shrinking what's in the product so that people don't notice.
Yeah, you don't need a dozen eggs. You only need 11 now. Don't worry about that blank spot.
This is a real thing that has had control put on it in the food sector, but it is something that can hide the fact that GW has increased the price 15 times in 5 years of every one of their products. But these have not moved as much. In 2020, they were $200. In 2021, they were a mix of $200 or $210. 2022, they were all $210. 2023, they're all $230.
Isn't actually that large of a spread. A few years, things go up a bit.
That's a normal amount. If that's all kits went up by, it wouldn't have been the worst with the amount of actual inflation we've had the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's annoying, but...
But when you look at some of the price changes, I expect we're going to find shrinkflation occurred. I have not actually analyzed the data yet. That was why I had some of the patrons help me out. I wanted to go into this fresh with my hypothesis that I'm going to find that 2023 has worse value than previous years. I could be wrong on air, and that's fine, but I want to actually see if I'm right.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also just, I would like to think about what the value is from the actual box, because, I mean, we know that some models have an MSRP value that you look at and go, but nobody wants to pay that.
3 Outriders is $60. No one is going to pay $60 for 3 Outriders. They're a trash unit, and they were in every combo set for 3 years. You can probably get them for $10 on eBay. And the kits are notoriously awful to boot. They don't even go together right.
So it's one of those that yeah, just because it's technically on paper a good value, you look at it and you're like, well, no, I don't want any more Zangors. Thank you, GW, go away.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about these from a value standpoint, but from a more personal value standpoint rather than raw numbers.
Do you want to just start with the two that have the least comparison because they're new?
Okay, let's do Votann and let's do World Eaters. These ones come out pretty well. If you're interested in either army, I think both of them are snap pickups if you have not started your collection.
I think that's the massive key.
World Eater suffers from what the 2022 boxes suffered from, which is it has a massive named character eating up a ton of the value, like Magnus and Mortarion did last year.
And Angron is $170, which means it's, do you want a second one if you already have one? Because if not, you're not getting good value.
And another thing to look at with these is, are the other intro points you can use right now well accented by this?
Right.
In this case, yes, even with the awful way the World Eaters Combat Patrol is just a bunch of troops, because they didn't add many to this, most likely because they realized that it would be a terrible accent if there were 20 Berserkers in this box. That's more a problem with the Combat Patrol in this box.
Yeah, but it does matter. When you're looking at getting these combo boxes, it's nice to look at, do the other combo boxes already do this just better.
So with World Eaters, Angron, 10 Khorne Berserkers, and 6 8-bound or Exalted 8-bound. This accents the Battle Patrol very well, which is just a shitload of troops in one character that is not in this box. From a price-saving standpoint, you almost get a free Angron if you're paying MSRP for everything.
I mean, almost is a bit excessive.
You're saving $125.
Yeah, and Angron's 170.
Yeah, you should not be paying MSRP, especially on giant models.
But I see what you're saying of like, there is good raw value here, but it's fine if you don't have an Angron yet.
Yep. But it is a problem for if you do. And it was the problem with last year's boxes of it was great as a way to get into the army. It was not great if you were a fan of the army.
Yeah, anytime these boxes have so much of the value is in one model, like if over half the value is in one model, if you already have that model, it doesn't work out very well, but it is really nice if you don't. Like if you're just getting into it, the World Eaters is gonna be really nice to have, and it'll go well with the Combat Patrol.
Votann is in a very similar position and is the highest savings of every one of them. The Votann box has an Einherjar champion, Grimnir, 10 Hearthguard, which is 2 kits of Hearthguard, the Hecaton Land Fortress, and the Sagittar, which no one has been able to purchase for like 6 months. This comes out to a whopping $385 at MSRP because Votann is wildly overpriced. While the World Eaters was amazing from a point standpoint because Angron's jacking it all up and was at like 915 points.
He's pretty good though.
It was fine, but it was a non-repeatable box. This box is more defensible to get two of if you're getting into the faction. Not that I'm going to tell you to run out and spend $500.
Yeah, but this is like very close to Votann army in a box.
Yeah, because it's 750 points only, because again, Votann is really cheap in points right now.
It shouldn't be, but it is, so.
It will probably be more points once they get fixed.
I expect when they get a codex, it'll be more points. Well, at least I hope so.
Yeah, but this is pretty acceptable for a point count in my head, considering that it's probably actually higher by 75 to 100 points in a year.
And it gives a pretty good options of what Votann has.
And it accents their combat patrol well, with zero overlap.
I still look at the Hecaton Land Fortress and go, fuck you, GW, for putting it at that price. But ignoring that knee-jerk emotional reaction, the Votann box is really good.
Yeah, I think this one would be totally fine to get one of, or if you're rich, two of, if you're trying to just like instant Votann army.
Yeah.
Because 20 Terminator equivalents is probably the most you're ever going to want of those. But 2 of your main battle tank, 2 of your transports, 2 of your psyker, 2 of your melee characters, totally fine. And then you just buy the combat patrol or 2 copies of the combat patrol, whatever, and you have well over your points count to just start picking and choosing things to play.
Honestly, you basically have Votann.
Yeah, you have the whole range at that point. I don't think anything's missing. Oh, the Tech Priest equivalent. That would be the only model that you wouldn't own.
Yeah, man, that's like pretty wild to just be like, oh, I pick up 4 boxes and I own the entire army essentially.
In double.
Yeah.
You could pick up 1 of each and own the entire army.
Yeah, not that that is great because that means the army is small, but solid option getting into the army. And honestly, if you just don't have 2k points yet and you need a land fortress, this is a good option.
All right, before we get to my hypothesis, let's finish talking about the current ones.
All right.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Space Marines is god awful. Do not spend your money. If you're a new player, you got into Space Marines and you're like, oh boy, I sure do love my blueberries. Do not waste your money on this box.
You don't like the Invader? Come on.
So the Invader ATV is like, it's been a defensible unit before and probably will be again. But at MSRP, it's $50 for a McDonald's toy. Outriders is $60 for 3 McDonald's toys. And they are a notoriously shit kit that will not go together.
That's the real problem is like, I could understand some of that, but they're just not good.
It's not a seam line. It is a visible giant gap. I know because I helped my brother assemble his Outriders. It still looks like shit after all the fixes we did.
Yeah, it needs like green stuff to fill in, not to just like hide stuff or like finish some potential scrapes or whatever. It's like, no, just finish the model. Like you have to continue building it.
That unit unit should have been abandoned. It should have been thrown in the dumpster, and it clearly was on a technical level because they never followed it up. This never got a multi-part kit with options. They all just run around with the basic chainsword loadout being a terrible unit.
And then they finish it up with just jump pack assault intercessors. Like, those are good, but
It's the new kit, and it is priced to sell from a actual gameplay standpoint of being strictly better than playing the non-jump pack assault intercessors. And they are, so this is where we get into, okay, throw out the Outrider and the Invader ATV, right?
yeah.
If you throw out the Outrider and the Invader ATV, you could get 15 jump pack intercessors and the captain for $220. The box is $230. If you don't want terrible McDonald's toys, do not buy this box.
But they're kind of free in a weird way.
If you wanted everything else in the box, you get to pay $10 for McDonald's toys.
Right.
You don't get a Happy Meal, though.
You do not. And please don't eat the plastic.
Unless you're a Marine.
Yeah, so the Space Marines one is not great. We're not really here for it.
From a point standpoint, it's horrendous too. So the other two were 915 points, which is a bit on the high end. I'll admit, World Eaters gets away with being hugely high point count because of Angron.
Yeah, I was like, again, that's just if you have so many points, so much dollars per single unit, things get skewed.
But Votann is very much in line with the other ones we're about to talk about at 750 points. And it's about what I want a box this expensive to be giving me in points. It should be at least a third of an army, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, it would be half an army, but
optimally a bit more, your 800, 900 would be nice. 750 is a reasonable point.
The Space Marine box, including your McDonald's toys, is 505 points. It is almost exactly just a combat patrol, being sold for way more money.
That's not good. I mean, it's very much a box of the jump assault intercessors. Like, if you want those, I guess you can get some other things at the same time for cheap-ish, but they're not good, and we should move on from this travesty.
All right, let's do Orks next.
The Orks one is awesome.
It is my favorite of the bunch, just from what I personally like when I look at the box. This is the part of Orks I love. This is a great box. It has amazing variety in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has the great variety of a section of the army that you would be interested in. So if you like the squigs, this is good. You get a kill rig, you get boys, you get Squig Hog boys, and you get a beast boss. It's basically everything that you want when you're trying to get into the squig portion of the army. And for some reason, the kill rig's $140 on its own. I did not know that.
Yeah, they're expensive as shit.
Insane. It's a cool model.
It is one of the best orc models out of the box. I love the big squig. He's got a big rhino horn they welded on his face.
Right. Yeah, this is the side of the orcs that you enjoy, and I get that, and I like it too. I'm probably gonna get this box because it basically rounds out my section of orcs that are going to do the squig part. But at the same time, if you're not interested in that section of the army, that's all it is, kind of thing. So,
but if you're interested in orcs and you like the snakebite side of the army, like all of the squigs and all that, this is like an easy double pickup type one where it's like an instant army. It's like almost 750 points. The dollar value is pretty good too at 365. You get essentially that entire section of the army in a vertical slice. 2 copies lets you alt build stuff if you want. So you could do Hunter Rig and War Boss instead of Kill Rig for one of the sets. You could do the generic and Mozrog to have both types of the Squig Boss.
It's definitely one of those that let you do 2 options very easily without like having to actually get into kit bashing. It's just like you can alternatively build this other thing and it's still cool.
And if you just like all of Orks, it has 0 overlap with the Combat Patrol, which is more generic boys and a little bit of junkyard look.
Yeah, and that's why I'm gonna get it, is because this basically finishes off this section of the army for me.
Doubt. I want you to get at least one more kill rig for half of my lists.
Yeah, fine, whatever, dude.
Christmas present decided. Eric's getting a kill rig.
Wow, how exciting. But this box is legit awesome. It nails everything that I would want out of the box. And I mean, yeah, obviously, like if they had more for cheaper, I would be happy. But this is a good place to be.
We can go into another good one with Tyranids. Honestly, this is probably going to be the most popular, if I have to guess, for new players.
I mean, given a lot of people got into Tyranids.
Yeah, and when I got into Necrons, they did a combo box for Christmas that year in the 2020 batch. I have to go look at it, but I remember it being the same way where it was basically the other part of the army, but I remember it also having some not great units. So the box had a Triarch Stalker, Praetorians or Lich Guard, a Technomancer, Immortals, more Warriors, which was very unfortunate, a fucking Doom Scythe, and a Spooter. It was fine, and I remember being tempted by it, but I had gotten so much of this just through eBay collections already that I didn't really need it. But if you were just starting out and you just got into Tyranids through Leviathan, this very correctly, from a GW sales standpoint, has no overlap. It's the rest of the range update for the most part, and it includes one of the most iconic units in a Hive Tyrant.
Yes.
It's pretty much a slam dunk for rounding out your Leviathan force.
Yeah, I think so. I want to say there's only so many Hormagaunts you can run, but
20 is way under that count anyway.
Yeah.
If you're running Hormagaunts, you're going to be running 60 of them.
Yeah, you've got a good few that you're going to want, so this box does a great job.
Yeah, the box has a Norn Emissary, which is just an amazing kit. Holy shit. My wife just got done building hers and it looks so good. 20 Hormagaunts to accent your Leviathan Termagaunts. Gene Stealers to go up more with your Hormagaunts. And Hive Tyrant. Hive Tyrant could be built like 3 different ways. The Emissary could be an assimilator. Honestly, even though it looks like a lot of the same thing, this is another one where multiple copies really doesn't punish you because of how Horde armies work.
It's actually kind of like the Orc one where it's like you don't have to kit bash, it builds into other things.
Yeah, you could have the same box twice and end up with what looks like a very well-rounded army, other than the fact that Horde armies just run 40 of the same model all the time.
Right, but that's just how it goes.
From a saving standpoint, it's pretty good at 330, and points-wise, it's up there at 865. Like, you can't complain.
No, not really. And it's a pretty good spread. So it's not like it's too much focus on monsters, too much focus on Horde. Like you're just getting a good, decent options of different things. So basically what you would expect.
And to round it off, we can talk about the one I am most annoyed with, even though it's not bad. The Astra Militarum Cadian Defense Force, also known as a wasted chance to make a Krieg box.
All right. Because I was like, this is kind of exactly what I'd expect.
Do you want your combat patrol, but in a different shape?
Yeah.
We found the missing tank from the combat patrol. They shoved 2 of it in this box.
Basically. Which is, I mean, I like that. That's good. I'm very much happy of having 2 tanks in a box.
As someone who does not like Cadians, I already am not a fan of them being like double downed on in the combat patrol. And then you release a combo box that's just more of them and another command squad. And it's like, can you show any other part of guard than these 2 kits? Like, we get it. You probably spent too much money on redoing Cadians when everyone wanted you to do Krieg instead. But fucking stop.
Fair, but I do think that if you're interested in the Cadian part, this is a nice box.
Yeah, it's not a bad value by any means. It's technically a good value on paper just from like, it's $345 for 230. Wow. But like, it's pretty decent points for a guard box.
For a guard box.
It's 705 points.
Yeah.
You could argue the Rogel Dorn is overpriced currently, but it's fine. You could argue that double Rogel Dorn is a bit awkward because you would never want a second copy of this box, not just because that's way too many Cadians.
That's a lot of tanks. But like the first box is going to be nice.
I just kind of wish, like ignoring my Krieg issue, take out 10 Cadians and 1 Rogel Dorn and toss in a Lehman Russ and one of the other multi-build tanks, like a third one. So you end up with 3 unique looking tanks, 10 troops and an HQ. And it's almost exactly the same points, and it's probably very close on the dollar count.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously ways that could be better. I think it's still a solid one.
It's not bad. The Rogaldorn was out of stock for a while, so this is helpful.
But you're not looking at multiple of these.
And I don't think it accents the combat patrol very well unless you, like, literally are brand new to guard and you're not going to ever want a troop again after you buy a combat patrol or two and this. You now no longer care about collecting guardsmen.
Which, that does limit some of your future combo box potential, but there are some that just, like, get done with that part so I can focus on the fun tanks.
Or better types of guardsmen who wear gas masks and sweet trench coats.
Right. Very edgy. Much cool.
So that covers this year. And looking at it as a whole, it's a pretty decent spread. Space Marines is terrible. Stay away from it.
Yeah. But other than that, nothing jumps out as like, GW screwing us again.
Honestly, yeah. There was a lot of negativity online when I first saw these revealed and everyone was very pissed off. I'm going to assume because 40% of the player base plays Space Marines, and that box is dog shit.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I do want to see my shrinkflation hypothesis, but I'm feeling scared now because I don't think these are terrible, but I remember some really good ones in the past and I'm wondering if it holds up.
All right, what do you want to start with Space Marines or do we leave that?
Let's not do Space Marines dead first because it'll tire us out.
Yeah.
To explain this, I only had the patrons grab us equivalents. I didn't have them grab like the Death Guard or the Thousand Suns box because I have nothing to compare it to this year. And as we've seen from Space Marines to Orks, there can be a huge range in what you get per army. So I tried to keep it army to army. Astra Militarum had a box previously in 2020. It's called the Bastion Platoon. It had an old Cadian command squad, which I think was just called command squad, and 20 of the old Cadian troops that were just the generic troops. It had a heavy weapons team, the old armored sentinel, a wyvern, and a chimera.
Which is not great.
It was a lot of variety. It was not great in points at only 510, barely combat patrol, but it was $360 in today's money.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like as much as having the two Rogaldorns means that you're never excited about getting the second box. I kind of like that a little bit better.
I don't know. I like the variety of having a tank variant, a transport variant, a heavy walker, and a heavy team, and then you still ended up with 20 fucking troops in a command squad. Like, it's way less points, for sure.
Yeah, I guess the walker's just dumb looking to me.
I actually like the new one. The old one is very much just we ripped off Star Wars, but everything in 40k is we ripped off somebody else.
That is true, and generally do it worse.
British moment. So it was a bigger savings in today's amount. However, at the time, I went back and checked old articles like Goonhammer and stuff to see what these were worth at the time. This was only $292 at the time, and now it's $360, which shows you how much these kits have jacked up in price.
Yeah, that is quite noticeable.
I kind of like reading the old articles of them being like, I don't know, it's only a $90 savings. It's kind of iffy, and it's a bunch of mishmashed units thrown together. And then we look at it in today's price. And it's so much more expensive for the same trash. This isn't a shrinkflation thing, honestly, because from a pure point standpoint, we actually are better with the double Rogaldorn one. From a money standpoint, yeah, it's $345 versus $360 for 30 more bucks, but the 30 more bucks is part of normal inflation. It's essentially the same.
Not really that far off.
It's just the actual prices have inflated so much on kits that at the time it didn't look like a great deal. But that's more a problem with what happened to GW's prices than the actual shrinkflation one. So I'm disproven so far.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd say this is arguably a comparative. You could argue either way and slightly here and there, and depending on which exact specifics you're looking at, but close enough.
All right, let's do Orks then for another simple one, and then we'll hit Space Marines because we got to do it at some point.
Okay.
Orks famously had a great box previously. It's one you got for Christmas. The Killdakka Warband.
Woohoo. No, it was actually like an exciting one.
It's a pretty decent box, honestly. It had 20 boys, 10 Gretchen, 5 knobs, Wazbomb Blastojet, or any variant. At the time, the Dakka Jet was the bee's knees. This is just before they decided that planes were not allowed.
Yeah. One day they'll be back. Don't worry about it.
The Def Killer War Trike to lead them all, and a random Big Mech.
It was really a random Big Mech.
It was to help sell it as a a junkyard thing while being mostly just boys variants.
Yeah, but it was awesome. You got a bunch of boys, some knobs, Gretchens. The Warstrike is cool. So I remember being very happy about it.
Yeah, so it was a very good box, honestly. Comparing it to the current one is still better in both money and points, because the old one was $6.45 in current points and $353 because of the awkward $38 kit for knobs. But yeah, the current box, although it is, again, my favorite box of the current set, does beat it in both.
Yeah, and that's not that unexpected to a certain point for the point cost, just because like Grots are nothing and boys are also pretty cheap. I'm personally more excited about the old one just because the Dock Jet's awesome and like the Wartrike, and it's just kind of where I'm at. But the new one has great value, and I don't think we're really experiencing shrinkflation on that.
So far, I'm wrong. All right, let's do Space Marines. There are many of these because Space Marines is in every year, and for some reason, multiple times at certain points. I did not do the ones that were not part of Christmas that came out like 2 months later that were part of like the aborted Space Marine 2.0 release, but the ones that were part of Christmas are here. So, in the past, Space Marines has had the Interdiction Force. What a stupid ass name. The Interdiction Force. In 2020, it had the Shieldbreaker Strike Force in 2021, the Bastion Strike, and the Raven Strike Battle Force for 2022. So 4 previous boxes to look at. This is my first time actually analyzing these points. So let's see. So in 2020, for $200, you got Captain of Phobos, 10 Infiltrators, 10 Reavers, an Invictor Tactical War Suit, and an Impulsor. Okay, looking at that list of models, this was things that were not selling because they were very bad.
Yeah, I remember that one and going, wow, they had a bunch of extra shit that they just tossed in a box.
This was part of the infinite Reavers are in everything because they couldn't sell Reavers.
Yep.
And that's why Reaver heads were like the cheapest bit ever to steal because everyone had spare boxes of Reavers. In an actual like money and points ratio type thing, it does beat out the current one. Well, at least in points, it was 670. In price, it was only 310 in today's money versus 330 in today's money. So it's slightly worse for $30 less at the time, but that's part of normal inflation. So price-wise, you could argue it's not true. And it looks like at the time it was only $291. So it didn't actually increase by that much.
All right. I'd be more interested in going on to the next years because I vaguely remember that being more interesting.
So this was Captain, 10 Intercessors, 10 Assault Intercessors, 5 Heavy Intercessors, 3 Blade Guard Vets, and a Storm Speeder. Would you like to take that back, Eric?
Maybe that's not the one I was remembering.
So,
I mean, that's a lot of Marines.
It is. Unfortunately, it is also all troops. There's 3 Blade Guard Vets and a Storm Speeder, but you've got 25 random troops in here, some of which are generic intercessors, some of which were assault intercessors, which at the time you could get out of literally every box, and then heavy intercessors, which were the new thing, I think, at that moment. It was $360 in today's money for 210, and it was $765. So this is a more acceptable target, even if the units are a bit on the bland side.
Yeah.
You can't really complain about this one. It's just very vanilla.
It's not exciting.
Yeah.
But it does a good job of being like, here's a core part of an army.
The year after was the one where they did the double. This is last year. And then they did like 18 more of them like 2 months later as they went, no, we weren't going to try to Space Marine 2.0 this edition, we swear. This is just a shitload of random boxes for no reason.
For no reason.
So the Bastion Strike Force was Garadon, I don't care. An Imperial Fist Nobody, 3 Primaris Aggressors, and 15 Heavy Intercessors.
Oh look, I found where you needed to get heavy intercessors from. Jesus Christ.
So this was a very bad box too. Okay. So this one looks like our current box.
It's actually extremely comparable.
Yeah. 300-ish bucks for 515 points, which sounds almost exactly like the Spearhead Force.
Yeah.
Dead on. And one of it's a named character for a specific subtype of Marine. This is a bad box.
I mean, it does mean that we're not really dealing with the shrinkflation. We're just dealing with shitty boxes.
Yeah, I would argue that the Shieldbreaker does match the shrinkflation thing of there was a lot more in that box. And Raven Strike Battle Force matches that with, you had the Edgelord with the emo haircut. With Librarian.
Very specific.
Go look at his model.
God damn it. Now I gotta figure out what the hell you actually said. Something Shrike. And I can't use Games Workshop website to find it. Because it's a fucking queue.
Voice chat.
Oh. You're not wrong. And it's embarrassing.
He's got an emo haircut. He's going to the My Chemical Romance concert next week. It's got the Librarian and Phobos armor with him, 2 Invictor Tactical War Suits, 3 Eliminators, and 10 Reavers again. They really have trouble selling Reavers and always will.
I wonder why. I mean, this seems slightly better.
Yeah, good value, good points. The argument of Shrike shouldn't really count, and even if you take him off, it's still better than the current one for cheaper. So, interesting. With Marines, I'm going to say possibly true, but there is proof of previous fuck-ups with the Bastion Strike Force.
Yeah, it seems very much like a less shrinkflation on purpose and more of a just bad decisions sometimes.
And I would argue, honestly, looking at this entire list of Space Marines, most of these boxes suck.
Yeah, it's not just bad decisions sometimes, it's bad decisions most of the times, and sometimes they get it right.
I'm going to just say they know that Space Marine players will buy literal dog shit if it's got an Ultramarines logo on the box. So you can just put whatever you want in these boxes and they will still sell.
Probably.
That might be the case, and that might be why it was too apparent this year, which is why all of the hubbub happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's also one of those that it's easier to sell a Space Marines holiday box for people that I need to get, an aunt or an uncle is I need to get my niece or nephew a Space Marine thingamajig.
Dude, if you got an aunt or an uncle who's buying $200 of stuff, hook me up with that aunt or uncle.
I mean, it probably happens.
Hello, it is me, your nephew, Brad. I am here for Christmas.
I'm only 35. Don't worry about it.
I'm not 35 yet, you bastard. I've got years left.
I'm young and spry.
Well, I'm definitely not spry. Slow down. It hurts when I stand up.
Oh.
Don't get fat, kids.
Or old. Wait.
Or old. Wait. All right, let's wrap up with Tyranids. Yeah, Tyranids basically also is just disproving me, although it's a little weird.
So, okay, yeah, I don't really remember what was in Tyranids.
Okay, so Tyranids was also a Hive Tyrant, but this one came with the Haruspec / Exocrine, 3 Hive Guard / Tyrant Guard, and 16 Gene Stealers, because they used to get sold in 8s, even though hot dogs are sold in packs of 10, and 10 Gargoyles.
Oh, yeah, the Gargoyles, those fucking shitty base things.
This one's awkward because Gene Stealers are not sold in these quantities anymore. So it's hard to price. And it's an illegal amount, so you just have to pretend there's only 5 in the second set so that you can run them. So one of them is wasted, and you're going to have to buy kits of 10 and just only use 16 out of the 20 you bought, and only use 15 of those because 16 is not legal anymore. This is where it gets funky. But in today's math, it would be $375, but you would get 4 more Gene Stealers. And it would be about the same points as the current one. It's 810 versus the current 865, depending on how you build everything on both of these.
Yeah, okay, fine. I feel like I just like the new one better, but it doesn't disprove shrinkflation or any of that stuff, but I like the new one better.
Here's something that does help disprove the shrinkflation though. At the time, it was only $313 for those kits when I looked at the Goonhammer article I'm reading right now.
Okay.
So $313 out of 210 versus $330 for 230 is basically the same amount money-wise.
We're close enough that...
We're in the close enough that I'm going to say the shrinkflation hypothesis is false. Myth busted. I was wrong. But I think the reason I felt that this might be a thing, and the reason I think a lot of people were complaining that this year fucking sucks, is because Space Space Marines was really bad.
Space Marines is really bad.
And a lot of people only care about their faction, don't look at everything.
And, I mean, it definitely is true that a bunch of kits are just more expensive.
There is just the normal inflation part, yes. But I think a large part of it is also that we remember the good ones.
It's true, because those are the ones that you bought.
Yeah, we just remember the really good combo boxes and go, man, I wish I had gotten that one at that time, and now I'm screwed with this piece of shit.
Yeah.
So, like, when you think of the best one from each year, yeah, these things are nuts. Why aren't they all like Custodes was last year?
Yeah.
Like, the Custodes box was crazy. You got like 1,500 points of Custodes.
You really did.
The Death Guard box was like okay at 1,000 points. Same with Thousand Suns was almost 1,000 points. But again, both of those are almost identical to the World Leaders one that's right now that's almost 1,000 points.
I was going to say those and World Leader for now are like the exact same box, except don't actually copy my homework.
They're very much like the World Leader one looks like it belongs in last year's. Big centerpiece character, generic troop of faction, generic elite unit of faction, send it to print.
Yep, job done.
Job done.
I'm taking coffee break.
Honestly, 2021 was mostly garbage in my opinion. I think the Death Guard one was pretty good that year, and the Orc one obviously was the standout, but like, I don't think it was a good year that year. So I really think these Christmas boxes are pretty solid compared to historically. And it is not just a everything is overpriced now, so we've lowered our standards type thing. It does seem to hold up well historically.
I think so as well.
I'm not going to be too sour about the price increase of $20. Like, we knew it was going to happen. They've increased the cost of kits so fucking much that it was bound to happen. I still think the kits are outrageously expensive right now. 3 Outriders I would not give you $20 for, and they want $60 for them. An ATV they sell for $50. I'm pretty sure it's half a sprue.
It's half a sprue. I think it might actually be.
It is awful what they're charging for some of the kits right now. But that is not the point of this. It is to look at the value boxes versus them to see if they're good to buy instead. And 5 out of 6 are.
And I mean, it's one of those that like, you've got a good set other than Space Marines. Some of them are going to be better for you specifically. Like if you have an Angron, you probably don't need World Leaders, but I'm overall pretty happy with it. I have some concerns about if the trend will continue and they're just going to keep like, oh, it's just inflation again. It's just inflation again. It's just inflation again. And then we're at like, you know, a $300 box and we start getting into that. Why is every big character only $170? You know, like,
oh, they're gonna break that soon too, I bet.
It might be. It very well might be. But like there's those like you hit the tiers of, oh, this does something to my monkey brain. Big number. I'm scared.
I don't know.
I'm definitely picking up at least one of the Orks. I'm probably only getting one of the Orks, Brad, and you can buy your own fucking kill rig if you want to play a list that's like that. And you can build it too.
You have a Christmas present coming up. It's fine.
How exciting. If you want to do that, fucking get me the turtle truck.
I have the unfortunate one of, I was debating picking up World Eaters just because if demons get split, I'm pretty sure I would keep my Khorne demons because I've grown attached to them.
All right, fair.
And I would want to have their mortal equivalents to play, you know, Codex Khorne with Codex Siege as my picks out of that if they ended up doing the AOS thing. Again, that's hypothetical that they ever would, but that would be a reason for me to go World Eaters. And this is a very good box to do it with. However, because we live in a great area with an awesome secondary market and great discounts on everything, I just picked up a new on sprue Angron for $85.
Yeah, that's a solid deal.
That's a fine amount of money to pay for, you know, Angron or Morty. I could have bought Morty last year for like the exact same price.
Yeah.
You'll probably be able to get Angron around here for the exact same price as soon as these come out.
Probably. But that's definitely we have a good local area that does reselling and trading and stuff. So.
Yes, and there's just good shops around us to buy things secondary. So I picked him up, and now this box is pretty bad for me because I do not want to buy this box and waste Angron. The Angron I picked up was not originally intended for this army though, so I could argue it's fine, because I was actually using him as a Kytt bash base for an extra bloodthirster to not have them all be in the exact same pose, because they're very mono pose. And I was looking at some really sick Kytt bashes in one of my discords, and I was like,
MSRP, that's an expensive fucking Kytt
I didn't
bash.
know it was 170 when I bought it. I was like, 85, I guess.
I guess I'll take the like 115 down to 85, 120.
That's what I thought. I thought it was like the same as your kill rig is 140, and I thought like maybe he's 140.
Yeah.
I was like, he's between 115 and 140. He's probably 115 if I'm getting him for 85. Because like I bought this at a store. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever. I'll get him for the 85. It's fine. It's open box. Don't care.
And like 85 is like the 85 to 100 is like, okay, yeah, this is a fine price for the thing I'm getting, ignoring everything else on what GW's trying to say it's worth.
Yeah. But then I found out it was 170. I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's kind of up to you if you want to do it, but it seems crazy to have another Angron.
I don't think I will. I would rather that sets like this go to people who actually want the army. Nothing is sadder than when you have to tell someone like, oh, there's a great intro set for your army. Go back in time 6 months and you could grab it.
Yeah, or there's a great intro set, but it had enough value that everybody bought it and ripped it apart, and now it's not findable anymore, and sorry, GG.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when things like that happen, so I don't think I would value pick this up.
But you might just randomly decide to walk out the store having paid $230 for a box because it was sitting there.
If I do any of them, it'll be to piss the wife off and buy the Onslaught Swarm box to bring home more unbuilt Tyranids for her to be mad about.
I mean, that Northern Emissary is very cool.
She has so many of that new boxes that I bought her to put together still.
No, new box. It was one box.
They all fit in one box. That's true. All of those boxes fit in one box. It's still the best joke. But yeah, I might get her that just because it would be funny to piss her off. But honestly, if you are playing or want to play any of these factions, save for Space Marines, go for it. These are solid, zero guilt. Do it. Spend your money. Do something stupid.
It's a holiday season. That's what it's for, right? Being a consumer.
And if you don't play one of these factions and you still want to waste your money, we have a Patreon.
We've got merch. That's the one. Like, Patreon is fine, but like...
Yeah, the merch store we should actually whore out. That would have been the funnier twist there. Damn it.
Yeah.
That's okay. Borrelio, put the hat on screen.
Put the hat on screen. Make sure that there's a cool animation that makes it exciting when it happens, too.
Lens flare now. All right. Well, that does it for the main segment. I hope you guys actually liked this episode. It was kind of a last second thing. I ditched our other idea because I didn't like the outline I was making. So we figured we'd do this. It's a little more topical.
And it was just kind of fun to randomly talk about stuff.
Yeah, I like doing like the money checkups where we do like not a pure budget episode, but like a real life expenses episode type thing where we look at things like this. It's interesting to do.
Yeah, and it's nice to keep an eye on things.
And it was a nice relaxed talking session, hanging out after a very long week.
Yep.
But that does it for this. We do have some quick news for Horde mode, but for anyone who wants to know info on that, there should now be a link in the show notes of this episode or description on YouTube, whatever we're calling it now. Then that will take you to the new dedicated Horde mode public Discord that will be the official Discord for Horde mode. We're just starting it up. I had people test it on my Twitter this week. It seems to be in working order. Nobody broke it. Should be good to accept everybody. Don't piss off the moderators. I have no pity for you if you get banned. But we'll use that for all of the official Horde mode news, so I have somewhere I can actually post that and have it be relevant. And we can use that for a good way for you to provide feedback that's not the email. A good way for you to ask questions to other people.
I think there's a decent amount of people that are also interested in playing test games.
Yes, so if you want to play on TTS, it's a good place to look for people to play it, or find locals maybe. I don't know.
Possibly.
But it's there for everybody who wants to talk Horde mode and figure things out or go give some feedback, whatever. Now available, go try it. There's also going to be an update, which will probably be just fixing a bunch of wording and stuff that people have found over the last week and a half.
There might be 1 or 2 changes to some of the secret objectives or something.
I don't think there will be any functional changes this time. I want to get fixes in before we start modifying, but I don't know if that will be done by the time this airs or if it'll probably be a week out still. Depends on how my week goes. But there we go. Horde mode update done. I won't have to do this every episode now. We will have the Discord for this. Point people there. Rambling over. As a final thing, for anyone still holding on, the Patron live episode is next week Friday, which is Friday the 17th will be the Patron live episode.
Hopefully it's not in the past for you. If it is, then it was recorded and you can listen to it.
Like a normal
episode.
It's in
that like gap between the time that it was recorded live and then the time that it was released edited. Then you're gonna have to wait a little bit because it's like how time works. So it's the past and you have to wait till the future because you're in the present.
Is anyone still there?
I hope not.
Let's get out of here.
Sounds good.